I feel like that this bookshelf is so like put together and beautiful, and then this one is just chaos incarnate. Sorry, not sorry. I forgot what I was doing for a second there. I'm like, I started the camera and then immediately forgot. Yes, my hair is green, in case you were wondering. Yep, I did that. I feel much better now, thanks for asking. This is the February wrap up. So I read 18 books in February. Look at that. And yeah, it's green. I did not dye my hair green in February. I'm filming this very late, so we'll see how well it goes. This is my page tracker. Very pleased with myself, very happy, very exciting. And I only DNF'd one book. Girl. The first book I read, I don't have a lot to say about this one. I gave 3 stars, and it is Rune and Rising by Leah Bardugo. This one is honestly the weakest one in the series. Very unfortunate. I loved how this thing started. I love this world and this universe. Did I care about anything that happened in this book? No. I did not. The second book is kind of where it peaked in the first half of the second book, and then it just went downhill from there. And I did not really have a fun time. I am still going to continue though, because apparently Six Crows is the best, so I'm looking forward to that. But this really didn't do it for me. I really kind of hoped that she would end up with Nikolai? Yeah, Nikolai. Because he was just like more. Mal was just, I didn't like Mal at all. Anyways, I did not have the best time. I won't lie. It was 3 stars. Like, yeah, I love that it's finally closed off and completed in Elena's story. Didn't really care though. The next book, however, that I read was The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. I reread this and I had a fun time. It was still 5 stars. This is just such a good time and brought back so many memories of me just like having the best time reading this the first time, and I felt more excited and joyful reading this series than I am like reading the Apollo series, which is something that I started this year. So it was very nice to go back into this, but I'm also like, wow, I'm missing some information that I don't recall from the Percy Jackson series. So like, I'll also start rereading that, so I'm just like all over the place with Rick Riordan this year, and that is perfectly okay. The next book I read was One Punch Man Volume 1, and I gave this one 3 stars. Don't take this as my overall enjoyment. I did have some issues with manga. I love the anime. I adore the anime. I have such a fun time with the anime. The manga, I was like, there's just spreads of fights and not much to look at. Like, it's all just fights. And I was like, I like the anime a lot more. And that's not something I thought I would ever say. Like, I thought I was gonna love this manga because I love the anime so much. And I'm kind of disappointed. So I don't think I'll be continuing. I don't even recall what I read because it was just pictures. There was no substance to it, which is like the opposite of my problem with Jujutsu Kaisen. There's too much substance and not enough pictures, so I don't know. I need to find a happy medium here. Which, weird critiques, right? Yeah, weird critiques. The next book I gave 4 stars to, and it is Sweet Peril by Wendy Higgins, I believe is her name. Oh my god, I should look this up. I should know these things before I start filming, you know? Wendy Higgins. I was correct. So I gave it 4 stars. I have a lot of fun in this world, and when I first started this book, because this is the second book in the series, I thought this was a trilogy. So I thought there was going to be a lot more to this book, but there wasn't. And it was definitely middle book syndrome, but I started and I was like, ugh, why did I like the first book? I don't understand. And then I got to a point where I was like, oh, this is why I like this book. This is why I like this series. So I'm happy that I stuck with it and continued because it was a 4-star read. And in this one we have the main character whose name I do not recall. Oh my gosh, I'm really bad with names. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I'm really bad with names. Anna. So Anna's mother was a guardian angel and Anna's father was a demon prince, and she's kind of like not supposed to exist, and the demons know about her and they've kind of taken a claim to her, so she has to do their bidding. And her father is like a demon prince of like addiction, so she has to get people to drink alcohol and do drugs and all that kind of stuff, but she kind of falls in love with another demon prince's child, and he also has to do the same thing, but his is like lust. So there's kind of like a lot of problems there, and the whole time you're just like, confess each other's love to one another, and they just can't, because they can't be together technically, otherwise they would both be murdered, and it's like a whole thing. But I have a good time, and I'm happy that there's 2 more books left, because I was like, oh, it's a trilogy, like it's almost done. It's not almost done, which is very thrilling. This next book is my DNF, and that is The Merciless Volume 2 by Daniel Vega. This is the Exorcism of Sofia Flores. I didn't get that far in. My bookmark is still in here. I'm on chapter 9. I gave up. This made me very uncomfortable. In it, Sophia is orphaned. Her grandmother is still alive, but her grandmother is not of sound mind, so she can't take care of her. And her mother has passed in a tragic accident that doesn't really seem like an accident, and Sophia is given 2 options. She can grow up in a foster group home, or she can do what her grandmother wanted and go to a Catholic boarding school for girls. And she decides to go to the Catholic boarding school. And there's a mix of boys and girls at the school, but at the school, the priest in charge of said school is very inappropriate, very disgusting, makes her do this weird shit that's technically not assault, but made me so uncomfortable that I literally could not continue. And I will probably be getting rid of this book. I loved the first book, keep in mind. The Merciless Volume 1, so good. This, too far. Do not recommend. Leave the first book where it was. I think it should have been standalone, and I will not be continuing with this series. Luckily, the next book was 5 stars, and this one is The Memory of Babel. Babel? They call it Babel in the audiobook, okay? Not Babel, they call it Babel, which is book 3 in the Mirror Visitor series by Christelle DeBose. And keep in mind, this has been translated from French to English, and I loved it. In this one, the main character, Delia, disguises herself and goes to Babel, and Babel is another arc. So basically this world has broken apart into arcs. God broke apart the world and gave each arc a family spirit to control it. Ophelia is from Artema, I think is what it's called, which Artemis rules over, and she was supposed to marry Thorn, who lives on the pole, which Farouk is the family spirit of. But now she is gone looking for Thorn because he's missing, and they never, or I think they got married, I don't remember off the top of my head, but she's looking for Thorn to be like, look, I love you, you need to come back. And they're trying to figure out what happened and what God did and who God is, because apparently he's always around. And on Babel, where they are, she joins this school where Thorn is working under her disguise and tries to get his attention. She's like the worst spy ever, but it was super cute and super like low-key romantic. Like, this is a slow burn if you've ever seen one. So good. Keep in mind, like, it is YA, so slow burn to like this cutesy little thing, and it was just kind of like you know, when we got there, it was very cute. Hype for it. Very excited to finally finish the series. The next book I read is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey, and I gave this one 4 stars, I want to say. Yes. There was one very uncomfy scene in this. I will say that, preface that. That's why I gave it 4 stars, not 5 stars, but I had such a fun time reading this. I read it in like a day. I was just like hee hee hee, kicking my feet the whole time I was reading this, up until they like made out in a church. I think they did more than make out in a church, but they did some stuff in a church lobby. I was like, I understand if you're not religious, or like you've fallen out of religion, but don't do that. Have some respect for other people. Come on. So that's why I bumped down a star, but this is a story of the main character. I can't read with this light in my face. Taylor goes on vacation with her little brother to help him get over a breakup, but really she just needs the vacation. And when they get into their Airbnb, the host of the Airbnb is dead. And so obviously they call the police, and then this private investigator gets hired, and she is like, yo, I was there. I can help you solve this murder. And he's like, you're a teacher. No, you cannot. And then, of course, they fall in love. It was very cute. Very, very cute. Another 4-star read for me. This is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. And I had a lot of fun reading this. This was actually really good. This one takes place 5 years after the City of Brass, which I thought was wild. I was like, what a time jump. But in this one, Nahiri has fallen into her role of basically being princess. She's married. Muntabar, I believe is his name. And they kind of fallen into their roles within the palace, and she works in the infirmary. He is kind of still an asshole. She's learning more about her people and everything that's going on, and about her family and their history, and kind of just biding their time. They don't think that they can get out of it. But Ali returns, and so do some other people. So, I don't want to give too much away because it is a middle book. And I also have read the third book at this point, so I already know too much. But, very good. This one did not have middle book syndrome. It was very fun. I think the time jump was also necessary, which I loved. The next book I read was 5 stars, and that is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. Finally got around to reading it. Look at me go. I've had this book for so long. You guys have no idea. In this one we have Leah, the princess of a country, is supposed to be getting married. And the only request she sends to this prince is, I would like to look at you before we get married, is basically what she says. And he's like, fuck no. Doesn't really do anything about it. And she's like, alright, I don't get to look at you. I am leaving. So she flees her family and this marriage on her wedding night. Like, the time that she gets alone for like the hour before the wedding is the time that she uses to escape. And she has this intricate tattoo thing that's supposed to fade on her back. I think it's like henna on her back, and some of it doesn't fade. It's kind of wild. But she runs away with one of her maids to her aunt's house, and the aunt takes her in, and these 2 men arrive. One is an assassin and one is a prince. And they're both trying to get her attention. And one is obviously the prince she's supposed to be marrying, and the other one is an assassin. I don't recall their names, otherwise I would tell you their names. But anyways, she lives in this place for a really long time until one of them decides to kidnap her. And that's all I'm gonna say. You need to read this. It's fantastic. Like, incredible. I don't know why I haven't picked up the second book yet, but I need to get on that. This is so good. The next book I read I gave 4 stars to, and that is My Imaginary Mary by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. The incredible trio. I love everything about these people. Oh my gosh. So My Imaginary Mary is a retelling kind of Frankenstein, but not really. It takes place with Mary Shelley and the other girl whose name, oh my gosh, Mary Shelley and Ada Lovelace. Technically in real life they didn't know each other, so there's like an author's note that tells you like they don't actually know each other, but they decide to create an automaton man, and they name him Pan. And it's kind of like the inspo for Frankenstein, as Mary Shelley has magic, so she is able to help bring him to life. And Ada Lovelace is like very good at like the science behind it and everything, and it's all just really cool. It's really funky and really cool, and I had a fun time, like I always do with these books. The next book I read, how much did I give this one? I gave 3 stars, and this is Swarm by Scott Westerfield. Oh my gosh, this was such a wild time. This expanded the world that the Zeros live in by showing that they're not the only ones with these abilities, and they are not even at the peak of what they can do. They can do so much more than what they set their minds to, but also it comes sometimes at a consequence. For example, Swarm is the guy that they're up against. He wants to control everyone and everything, and he wants to destroy everybody else who has powers. So they're kind of like hit with this challenge to basically survive, but also they're still not telling anybody about their powers, and they still gotta deal with like all the secrecy and stuff. They don't put on costumes, they're just regular teenagers, and it's such a wild time. So good, so fun. This is definitely written for like teenage boys though, but I love it. The next book I read, how many stars did I give it? 5, and that is Every Last Breath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the last book in this little trilogy, White Hot Kiss and Stone Cold Touch, and it basically went exactly how I expected it to. I was like half asleep listening to this, and I paused it, and I took a nap for like 20 minutes, and I woke up, and I was like, I literally dreamt about it. That's how much I love it. I just love everything about it. This follows Layla Shaw, who is half demon, half warden, and wardens are like gargoyles, and they fight demons, and she helps them for a really long time fight demons until she meets this demon Roth, and he is a demon prince, and she sees this whole other side of the world. It's super cliche, but I love it so much. And there is like a spin-off series about Zane, and I'm living for it. I'm so excited to read it. The next book I read, I gave 3 stars to, and that is That Inevitable Victorian Thing by E.K. Johnson. I technically did not finish this. I think I had like 50 pages left. I gave up because I was so confused. This is beautifully written. It is wonderful. If I could make 2 cents of it, I would have probably loved it, but I don't think it was for me. And I've come to peace with that. I don't think it was for me at all. But basically, it's like Victorian era-esque, but they have this thing where they can put their DNA into this little database, and it will come up with matches for them. And the daughter of the queen, or the niece of the queen, puts her DNA into the thing, and it comes up as her as a boy. So she ends up flirting with this girl, and they fall head over heels for each other. And then they finally meet when they realize they're talking to each other because they can see each other messaging, and they're like, oh my god, I'm Henry. And he's like, oh my god, you're Henry. And it's like a whole thing. And it's very cute and very, very adorable. But it was just not for me. Somebody else will love this dearly, and that's how I'm talking about it. Like, you guys would probably love this. You would probably think it's fantastic. And if I know you in real life and this intrigues you, I will give you my copy of this book, because it is very pretty. But I don't think I'll ever finish it. I was lost half of the time. I was very ADHD, I think, in that moment. The next book I also gave 3 stars to, and that is The Redeemables by Grace McGinty. It's Hell's Redemption book 1 that I read. I technically read the full bind-up of all 3 books, but I only read book 1, so I'm only counting 1, and it is signed, because Queen, Grace McGinty, I love her. This one we are following, oh my god, Arcadia. Arcadia is her name. I had to think about that for a second. This light is like really blinding, but Arcadia, and she is dying. She has cancer, but she stumbles upon this group of men who's actually like the Sins reincarnated, and they have a certain amount of time to redeem themselves so that they can continue living their lives and they don't have to go back to hell. Arcadia also has another secret. Ace is in her head. She is a guardian angel in her head, and this is super poly. She does it with pretty much all the dudes, but the one guy that she spends the most time with was the one that irked me. I was like, I do not like this man. I like some of the other ones better. Don't know why she spent so much time with him, but anyways. It was cute. I had a fun time. I read this for funsies. This is technically her first book that she published, so there are lots of issues with it, but I still love it. And I still love her as a writer. So, it was a good time. The next book I read, I gave 4 stars to, and that is The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan. This is the second book in the Trials of Apollo series. Apollo is looking for the oracles that exist in the world now so that he can get his life back. He wants to return to godlyhood. He's got like no abilities, and he's very upset about it. He also likes that he's called Lester Papadopoulos, something like that. Lester something that was stupid. I love it. I also love that he hates calling himself Lester, but I think that it should happen more often. I would like more people to just call him Lester rather than Apollo. I think it would be so funny, but I am having a fun time. I love Meg. She is probably my favorite character in this entire universe. As like a daughter of Demeter, I think she's fantastic. I think she's got a lot going for her. Okay? She is my favorite, and I'm not afraid to say that. The next book that I read was The Grey Wolf Throne by Cinda Williams Chima. I give this 2 stars. It's not the best. I don't know how I could get through so much of a series, because this is book 3, and quite literally I feel like nothing has happened. They're right at square one again. Reza is now crowned queen, and she's convinced Han to stay and protect her, and she needs to get married, or her sister will be married, and the wizards are still trying to control everything, and Hannah is a wizard, and she can't marry a wizard, and the Grey Wolves are coming out, and there's just so much happening, but so little happening. Like, so much has gone on, yet nothing has happened. They're literally like at square one. I don't even know. I will finish this because I'm determined, and I don't hate it, but I'm just so bored. Second to last book, we're almost there. I read Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I'm definitely saying her name wrong. I heard her say it and now I can't do it. Anyways, this like really pretty edition for starters. This was like a really cute romance book. I was taken by the beginning of it. I was absolutely befuddled by how incredible it was. The first half, which is why it's 4 stars, not 5 stars. Because after they got into a relationship, them being Reagan and Aldo. So there's Reagan and Aldo, right? They fall in love the first half of the book. I love the first half of the book. That first half is like the 5 star. The last half, kind of 4 star. Reagan kind of like takes a turn and is like, I can handle life unmedicated despite all of this crazy shit I've done and having a court order saying I need to be medicated. And I can be myself, despite the fact that she does all this crazy shit. And Aldo is just like, I love her anyway, despite the fact that she throws him in the dirt so much afterwards and does all this bullshit. He's like, nah, I'm gonna keep coming back to that. And I was like, I loved them falling in love more than I liked them figuring out their problems. Which sounds like an asshole move, but it's the truth. Does that make sense? Like, it was really good. And then she was like, fuck everything. And the 18th and final book that I read in February was Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This was a 5-star, obviously. This series is crazy. The series is incredible. I love Jude. I love Carden with all my heart. I had doubts in the beginning. Everybody does. That first book, crazy. This book, also crazy but incredible. I had one issue with this book. My issue with this book is if you're going to send Maddox into the human realm to be exiled, why would you have a picnic there immediately afterwards? He can't touch you from if you're in the Fae realm and he's in the human realm, but if you send him to the human realm and then you go there afterwards, I feel like that's kind of a dangerous thing to do. You feel? Anyways, happy ending. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Incredible. So those are the books that I read for February. They're on this shelf right here. I was blocking it, or trying to the whole time. Do I have a favorite? The Kiss of Deception was my favorite. If not, The Lost Hero, but this one genuinely was my favorite. Like actually this one and Queen of Nothing. These two are my favorites. I would die for them. I cannot wait to continue on this, like genuinely. I need to do that immediately. Fuck everything else. Did you have a favorite book from February? If you did, please let me know. I would love to know. And if you've read these, let me know your thoughts. But I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!